Hello and welcome to
My
an
name is Laura
introduction to
Jones, and
focus
today
groups.
I'll be talking about using focus groups in evaluation.
The focus group is a method that's widely used
Focus
in
groups
health
are group
research and
discussions
evaluation
among
settings
6 to
because
10
it's
participants,
efficient and it's
which are led by a
amenable to a broad range
facilitator.
of topics.
As
The
more than
idea
one
behind the
participant
focus
is
group
involved,
method
they tend
is
to take
that the
longer
focus
than
group
interviews,
process can help
so
people
you need to
explore and
schedule
clarify
up
their
to 2
views
hours.
in ways that would be less easily accessible than
Anything
in a
longer than
one-to-one
that,
interview.
and fatigue may begin to
In
set in for
focus
both
group,
you and
the
the
role of the
participants.
researcher is to introduce a topic and then facilitate the discussion between research participants by being actively encouraging and attentive to group interaction. Emphasis here is placed on the importance of interaction between participants because as long as the participants are addressing the topic of the discussion, then the researcher would tend to take a back seat, with the aim being to listen and to watch as the discussion between participants unfolds. That said, the researcher will still need to adopt an active role by guiding people back to the topic if they stray from the focus of the discussion, which can sometimes happen. Focus groups usually have between 6 to 10 participants. Anything above 10 participants can tend to get a little bit unwieldy and can be difficult for the researcher to manage. And focus groups tend to take longer than interviews, so you need to schedule around about 1 to 2 hours for them. Anything longer and fatigue might begin to set in for both you and the research participants. Okay, so in terms of issues you need to consider, focus groups are often particularly appropriate when a researcher has a series of open-ended questions or a theme that they want to explore in more depth, and as such it's often important to produce a list of topics to facilitate the discussion.
You need to be able to hear everyone's
You'll also need to consider the location of the focus group, because this should be accessible for the participants, make them comfortable enough to allow for group discussion.
Such as hot drinks
a quiet,
and cakes,
private space is
often
often best because you need to be able to hear everyone's contribution and limit any potential distractions. Whenever possible, a researcher also usually provides refreshments such as hot drinks and cakes and biscuits, as this can help to make people feel at ease and it also helps to stimulate the discussion.
Normally work together.
In terms of participants, groups can be assembled so that you bring people together from different stakeholder groups to talk about a topic. Or alternatively, you might want to organise your focus groups so that those involved are natural groupings. Bringing different stakeholder groups together can have the advantage of broadening the scope of the discussion, but on the other hand, sometimes it can be better to concentrate on natural groupings and keep the different stakeholder groups separate, because any hierarchical relationship may influence group dynamics and serve to constrain some of the groups of people from being able to express their thoughts and feelings openly and honestly. Another consideration might be how you're going to record the focus group, and I would recommend using an audio recording device and also taking notes of the discussion. One of the greatest strengths of focus groups is that in interacting with each other, the conversations that participants can have often yield a greater depth of information than can be achieved through interviews. And as participants talk, you also gain insight into the issues that are relevant for them. Another strength of focus groups is that it allows you to observe how participants interact, how views are negotiated, and the ways that the views of some groups dominate and others are marginalised. So for focus groups, you're not just recording what is said, but you're also seeing aspects of the social order of groups and then using those observations to think about some of the consequences that might have for your evaluation.
You're not just recording what is said, but also seeing aspects of the social order of groups, and then using those observations to think about some of the consequences this may have for your evaluation.
And there are practical issues that you need to consider. So you often need two people to run a focus group, a facilitator and someone to take notes and operate the recording device. You might want to develop a topic guide for your discussion so that the points that you wish to learn about are covered, because this can help you to guide the discussion and to make sure that people remain focused on the topic. Some focus groups can be difficult in that you can get people trying to dominate the discussion or continuously interrupting, so it takes quite a lot of skill for the researcher to be able to guide people in a tactful and yet diplomatic way. And so how you're going to deal with that is something that you might want to think about before you start conducting your focus group. And finally, as you might imagine, a 2-hour focus group will produce a lot of data that will take time to write up or get transcribed. So the time it takes for this is a factor that you will need to take into account. And that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to focus groups.